here it says live, so they got you live. And 14 people are already back. Good, good, good. Jak sprawy?
Dobre. I'm happy to see you. Thank you so much for this invitation, for this opportunity to speak with you, with your friends. Really, it's so.
Yeah. Well, we have some common friends because some of these are rollers. I
Uh,
can I can spot their vibe. They're already hip. They know what's going on. And yeah, we get 17 are back in, so everyone else is going to show up, and they got questions and commentary. And oh, here we go. You have a beautiful tone, Aziza. Yes,
Thank you.
Andreas is back. And we'll see. Dan is back. Herman
Yay.
is back. Some of these people, these are rollers. I know these people. The tone. I know these people. So yeah, I have to say, your voice. I was aware of your graphic art. I didn't know until a few days ago. Holy shit! I'm just gonna crawl up into sound.
Uh,
It's deep. It's rich. You have a what I call a perfect talent, and so I want our friends to be able to come in and appreciate it. I see more people. We have 18 people have come back. Come on, people, davai, davai, join
come on,
us.
come on.
Arcadian is back. Hamilton's here. Arcadian's our Greek brother. He can tell you all about education because the Greeks invented educatus.
Mhm.
Without the Greeks, we would have no education. That's what every Greek will tell you. Here's Lynette. So, welcome, welcome. I want you to feel free to talk to a lot of these folks that might not have a chance to chat with you in other space, like with Rick. And let's talk a little bit about the art you make and how you express yourself in graphic form. And then of course we can come to the music. But like I said, it's hard to actually just toggle through those photos so fast because if I had the wiring done, I would say, now tell me about this piece. Well, now tell me about that piece because each is an expression. But I'll let you tell us, about the art you make.
Mm, um, I was drawing from my childhood.
Hmm.
So really, I have amazing mother, um, because she was very happy when her child were drawing, and
Hmm.
she told us, so you can choose, you can create the art like sing or dance, or you will
Hmm.
like clean the house or you
Ah,
will work in the house, like something like this. And we said, of course, yeah, we will draw, we will create the performances, we will sing, we will dance, but we don't want to clean the house. And so
right.
she supported a lot this spirit of creation, because in her young age she like very much poet, artist, singers, musician. And she's a doctor, women doctor, and but she has really very artistic soul. So he dreamed to be actress, or like to so she support her children to be really creative. And so from my childhood I like to draw. And in the house we had a lot of books. Unfortunately, not we didn't have books about Crimean Tatar
Right.
artists, and it's about the colonization, and it's about how we lost everything. But we have the Matisse books about Matisse, Rembrandt,
Oh
Van
yeah.
Gogh. A lot of different also realistic artists, but I like most of all Matisse. So
Sure.
we had big book with Matisse, and I like his pictures, I like his drawing, and I like this art with a different color, with not realistic. I like this from my childhood. My
Yeah.
sister, for example, she liked to draw realistic paintings, like
Mm.
but I really like another style from my childhood. And when I I was lucky that in my school I had really great teacher
Right.
uh, that taught us to draw, and she support my style. So I could not create like another children, and she said it's okay, it's your style. I support
Right.
your style, and it was she was really great. And in general, she was also a teacher in our school theater. So with her supporting, I begin to be actress. So I choose to join to the University of Art, and I studied the art of theater, and not dramatic theater, but like we said,
Sure.
theater of animation, or like theater of puppet theater.
Oh
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not, but it's more than puppet theater. It's like theater of animation. It's a shadows, puppets. It's a
Sure.
mask. It's plastic. It's body. It's your body. It's dramatic theater. So it's everything. You just
Yeah.
can create this another reality from your body, from your fantasy, and it's also support this creative spirit. But in
Right.
general, I continue to draw, and before the full scale war I draw a lot. So I draw many sketches, much more than in during this wartime, and it was always abstract, and it's all for example I like to draw my friends.
Hmm.
I like to do portraits of my friends. But after the full scale war I realized that I could not make the art abstract art. I
Right.
want to share a reality about our war, about our resistance and fighting, about Crimea and about Ukraine. And so I just had this big like pain that I saw that maybe art is nothing. Like in the beginning of full scale war, I had such ideas, as I had such thought that art is nothing, because art cannot stop the rocket, cannot save my people. And I think what is bullshit. And a lot of great artists, genius people support Putin. I think how it
Mm.
can be, how, why the art, why this great taste of the art of music could not stop you to be animal, to support death of the people. So so I like maybe 3 months I just stop to sing especially. But I try to create some projects that can support Ukrainian army, so like NFT projects, or just
Right.
support it with so I called it like diary of my death. So I begin to create every day the art about our reality.
Right.
And it's helped me also to fix the time, and continue to create art, and understand that art can help my people in small steps, maybe with small donation.
I think this is one of them though. The donations, especially like you talk about ways you directly, especially with your experience, direct that incoming interest into areas of need that you're aware of, that only you and a certain amount of people in the community would be aware of. But more to the reactions I was watching as they're looking at both you singing and performing and your graphic art is that if they say, you mean this is also Crimea, not just a phrase that supporters say, but something deeper, the poetry, the spoken language, and we're going to explore this more and more. The more you guys come on with Substack, where we just have these sessions, the Crimean session of the day or the week,
Yeah.
and then show them like a deeper realization of what's there besides the headlines, because that's really, I think, what's so missing. We don't hear the people, we hear about it.
Yeah, just also with the music I understood that I have to continue to create music. And so um before the full scale war I spoke in Russian.
Mhm.
It's also about the colonization, about how Russian took from me my history, how I knew a lot of Russian writers, poets. I was super great. So my Russian language was very professional. So I create the lyrics, I create the poetry, I create the songs.
Hmm.
And it also was a moment when I understood that I don't want to speak in Russian, and I don't want to create something in Russian. And
Right.
for example, I delayed my big music album. So rollers heard this three songs from this album, because most of the songs were in Russian, but some of songs were in Crimean Tatar. And
Right.
so I delayed this album because I don't want to share Russian culture anymore, because I understood that I was a part of Russian culture. And I
Hmm.
now I also try to explain another people why language is important, and why when you are speaking in Russian you are part of Russian culture. When you create something music or some content in Russian, you are part of Russian culture,
Yeah.
and Russia will always mark you like part of their world, like part of their philosophy and identity. And it also was part of changes in myself, because I began to speak in Ukrainian.
Right.
I understood that I can, for example, translate some songs that I like, and they have really great senses. And I translate some songs in Ukrainian. I begin to create more in Ukraine, because I created the songs in Ukraine, but not a lot of songs, But
Right.
I begin to create in Ukrainian, especially in this moment when I begin to feel Russian language like it's danger. So what
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm living in Odessa region, and like Odessa region is um, like Russian speakers. Here a
Yeah.
lot of Russian speakers, and
Spot on.
yeah, a lot of
But you know,
people.
for those who are not here, I can still get a Putin Huilo and a Pizdets Rossiyской Federacji and a chessboard anytime.
Yeah, just it's not. It doesn't mean that they are support Russian, but
Right. Right.
yeah, they just don't understand still. I don't know why. Still, that Russian language is a part of Russian world, and even every Russian said, we will everywhere where people are speaking in Russian. It's our territories. It's
Hmm.
our world. So even in Germany, a lot of Russian are living in Germany, and it's Russian world. So it's
Yeah.
really dangerous for normal people.
Right.
I am sure. So I begin to this transformation inside of myself, and I begin through the Ukrainian language begin to create more in Crimean Tatar language, because before
It's very
I
important.
sang more in I sang old Crimean Tatar songs, and
Hmm.
now I begin to create my own songs with my
Right.
own lyrics and with my own senses, and I can say that nobody create such senses. I know a lot
Right.
of artists, but I believe that these senses are very new for Crimean Tatar world, and sometimes it's really also difficult, because of this danger that we can disappear. A lot of people begin to be conservative, and they don't support something new, because everything new is a very danger for identity, because if
Right.
you
Change is difficult for
yeah. And so
some
it's
groups of people. Yeah.
uh, from one side it's very great, and a lot of young people support me. From another side we have another wall, that I have really great traditional musician. He said to me that everything that I do is very bad, and is a melody and the sounds. It was very dramatic moment, but it's okay. So art begin to be part of the music, and music is a part of the art. And in parallel I created the performances. I created performance the colony, with supporting of Goethe Institute. They support my
Oh,
journey, my
okay. Yeah, I
travel
know who they are. Sure.
to the Tunisia. So they support my travel, but all my like this project I created with myself.
Right.
So I did a big trip through the many buses, and through the sheep. I don't know how to say. So it was sheep
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
between Italy and to the Tunisia, and it's all very very big, stress everything. But
Yeah.
I don't know how I was alive during this trip, but it's okay. So I did performance, and this performance was multidisciplinar. How to say in English?
Yeah,
Multidisciplinar.
multidiscipline. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I created during 22 days four big arts, and it was also like scenography. It was it's hanging on this on the stage. So I created the art during the performance. I worked with my mask, so it was like animation theater of
Yeah.
animation. It was a music, and it was a dance, like some like on the ground of Buto dance, because I
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
like. So I forgot that I like to dance very much, and from my childhood.
Our friends here did not. They all said. Tony just said like, y'all know she dances, right?
Yeah, and I dance.
Zwyczajno.
I dance also from my childhood. In my childhood, it was a traditional Crimean Tatar dance. So I
Right.
dance very good, and like Crimean Tatar dance is also part of our identity. For example, this style, one of the style of Crimean Tatar dance, Agir Avavi Khaitarma.
Mm.
I think
Hmm.
it is
Hmm.
in UNESCO. So it's
Yeah.
very special dance that's still not why it's in UNESCO, because it's also not only dance, but it's also like tradition. Because Agir Avavi Khaitarma, the people are dancing this dance on the wedding,
Right.
and it's like a dancing of the man and a woman, like like this brides, and so it's very very. I don't know. It's this is dance one of my favorite dance, because it's first it's very slow dance, and
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
like, you know, I told you that I like trip hop,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and
Yeah, I
a
was
lot
listening to Massive
of
Attack on the Metro the other day. I didn't get to respond back to you, but I was like,
yeah, a lot of
yeah,
traditional music in by Crimean Tatar are very slow and very very like trip hop, very dark, and I like this part of Crimean Tatar music. And another part of Crimean Tatar music, and also this Aghrawabi Khaitarma, very quick. So it's a quick dance,
right.
and also they have very groovy Crimean Tatar, joyful music, and it's
Yeah.
also but Khaitarma is also it's the name of this dance. But if you it's very very fast dance, but if you make it slowly, it will be very tragical dance.
Hmm.
So, Crimean Tatar music, it's a union of very sad music and very joyful. And I really believe that it's about the philosophy of the nation, because when you in dark when you can find in the darkness the light, and when you can find in the light, in the happiness, something very very sad, and in is this a sadness is like about more about silent,
Right, right.
because why Russian tried to kill us? Why Russian tried to kill indigenous people? Because
Yeah.
we are connected with nature, and we are connected with our ancestors. When you are respectful to your ancestors, you will never slave. You will always free, especially
Right.
when you connected with your earth. You will be always rich, and you will be always free. Why Russian killed a lot of people in the villages, took from them the lands, took from them freedom, and created a holodomor famine, because they killed free people. Because when you
Yeah,
have the
exactly.
lands, is it you can be free. You can be, you are not in fabric, some, you know, in some somewhere in the city, when you have nothing, only your bosses, only people who can give you money, and you can like work. But the land, it's your power, and that is why they killed us, they killed Crimean Tatar, and they killed Ukrainian too. Just Ukrainian a big nation, so
Sure.
it's really hard to kill millions of people, but it was really easy to kill Crimean Tatar, and like, you know, after the deportation, 46% of our people died, and it's not only one like one moment of killing. They killed us
Right.
from the
Right.
From the 80th century, 80th centuries, from the time of Catherine of the Second, when they occupied us first time, and it was many parts of this destruction and killing. So
Exactly.
yeah, like my music and my art is a part of me, and I really art before the full scale war was for me more like air. I'm drawing all time, like I'm drawing from the morning till the night, and I'm drawing helped me to create poetry too, because how I begin to create music. I begin to see music around of me, so in the geometry, in the colors. So because from the beginning I could not play on the keyboard and I could not play on the guitar, I just see this music around of me, in the
Hmm.
geometry, in the dance, in the lines of movement.
Hmm.
Because in general music is everywhere. That is why, for example, I'm not listening the music of another artist in my headphones when I'm walking, when I'm going to the city.
Right, right,
I'm always hearing the sounds around of me, people, what they're talking, noise, and I like this sounds of the life, and
right.
because everything can teach me how to see the world, have inspired me to write something, the words, the lyrics, and from the lyrics you can write the music, and from the music you can write the lyrics. So it's really interesting. Like war changed a lot of myself, because I begin to more like working for the supporting of the army, and I begin to be activist
Right.
for the Azov rally, for another rally. Also, we have a lot of problems inside of Ukraine, and we
Yeah.
have also created the rally against our corruption, against our during the wartime. And I think it's incredible, because when people are still are fighting inside of your country to make it better, to change something, I think it's really great. And so I'm really happy to really these days I thought about it. It's really hard to live outside of Ukraine, and I feel so sad about the people who are outside, because I know it's very hard uh, to live
I feel
without.
stressed. I'm not a Ukrainian by blood, but I feel stressed at the idea of leaving Ukraine.
Yeah, me too.
This is why when I get my military accreditation, it says you're working for another year. Like, yes.
And you're
And Chris, you
incredible,
have to. If someone says, "Well, when are you going back to?" Ja закінчив humanity, дякую вам. Like, and it's because I'm very tied to the people here now, emotionally, like interconnected. And you said something very important, that before the war, if I were walking down the street and listened to like children at school, like we have schools near us here in the building, um, dogs barking or things, it would go necessarily in different categories of maybe great, maybe like annoying. It depends. And now it's life. It's the sound of life, no matter what it's making. And when you have the context of such, terrorist aggression on a regular basis, then you go outside and the kids, it's as if it didn't affect them. It does, but the playful sound is back. And the juxtaposition of that playful, loving sound of the young people mixed with clearly the adults who have a lot of, I think in Ukraine, дуже багато stress и депресия.
yeah,
I think in a Ukrainian language now about the situation. And you still have to be thankful that there's a child too young to understand the trauma and is being very much like a child with the energy and you know like you said, write it into the music, take the sounds of the traffic mixed with the people and write it into the music. Yeah.
yeah. It was my also when in the beginning of full scale war, a lot of my friends said to me, Aziza, you have to leave Ukraine, because some people was very very nervous because of Odessa region, and they thought that
Yeah.
Odessa will be like Mariupol or something like this. So from the one side, from another side they said you have to go, you have to live your life, and I just could not leave Ukraine, because why I have to go if my friends for example,
Hmm.
my uh how to say in English, so my friends men's guys could not leave because
Yeah.
they have to like, why I have to leave. I always
Cholovik.
Choloviki,
Yeah,
I
that is.
always thinking that
Yeah.
we have same rights, and we have and I still thinking about it, that really I I'm one I really believe in the will of the people.
Hmm.
And I believe that, for example, if women could not, some people will never leave Ukraine. So men will never leave Ukraine, and it's
Hmm.
just it's a little bit sad that women can leave and men could not. And I believe that everybody have to have a choice for me,
Yeah.
because it's about the humanity, and it's about so it's another topic. But just I want to say that why I have to go. No, I will stay. And from another side, I really believe that in Ukraine, you have time. You can find modern time. You can find this time of the changes. And
Hmm.
if you want to feel this time, you have to be in
Hmm.
Ukraine. If
Hmm.
you want to be like on the pulse of the changes, you have to be near with the army, near with these people, because it's a modern time. It's about the
Right.
future. It's about, because if you will run, they will catch you somewhere. So you can't run from you can't run from this reality. Like
Yeah.
it's also about this peacefully life in Europe and the United States and everywhere. If you will be like, if you will build this wall between us, it doesn't mean that you will be safe. It
That's
just
right.
will catch you, uh, exactly because you want to build something, like build this wall, build this barrier between us. Because when I was by the trip to the Tunis, I was in the Poland by bus. I went in Italy, in Austria, in Germany, and like, of course, it was a not long time, but when you artist, you can feel the space. And when I
Right.
was in the Poland, I really feel that the war will be in Poland.
Right.
Exactly because I feel this, that they are very, very indifferent. They were like it's not like Poland. It was like they are very far away from Russia,
Yeah.
like very. But Poland is very, very near to the Russia, and very near to the Belarus, and I really don't. It was very painful because I don't want that these people
Hmm.
will meet the war. I wanted that people in Italy will never see the war, will never change us, peacefully
That's right.
minds, because we are very traumatic. We are not healthy anymore. We lost the paradise. We lost our peace. Like we are really. Um, it's not normal. For example, today I'm creating the stream, and during the stream, during I'm singing, it was a shelling, it was attack, and I was
Yeah.
just silent and continued to sing. And
We
uh,
were live with Sean, and three times while I was covering our discussion of captivity, the air raid. I keep three regions on the one map, and then on my app I only keep two, which is Kiev city itself and Odessa.
yeah,
And I always can tell the temperature based on when the attacks happen in Odessa. And here in the capital, and this is mainly for our viewers who might not know this. In our capital, we may have days and days where we're not much, but Odessa, it's every day, two or three times during the day. Another attack, another air raid warning at least, and then more attacks, and
yeah.
yeah,
And it's, I wanted to say that it's not normal. It's not normal that I continue to sing, because it's like it's changed my mind, and it changed mind of a lot of the people that continue to be normal. But
hmm,
it's not normal life. You have to be normal in such a situation. But we begin to be like, these monsters. and continue to live our life, continue to make our work, continue to dream, continue um, to be human in such a situation, in such big stress.
Right.
And it's not normal.
Hybrid wiring. Like I hear, I'm a musician, so I hear tones that are around B flat, and I is there an air raid?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's not an air raid. What is that? It's some electronic item. The
Yeah.
exact same pitch as air raid sound, and I'll go to the window. Go, it's not outside. What is it? Oh, it's the refrigerator. Let's,
Yeah,
you know. But
yeah,
it's
same
the
here.
wiring we have now, where
Yeah,
we're constantly looking for the shells that aren't happening. If there's a gap in air raids, we go, what did we do wrong, or what's
yeah,
going wrong? Like almost like you need to have one of our friends in a stream a few weeks ago said, when it doesn't happen, you're thrown off because you're so used to being in anticipation over that.
yeah. And when I was on the festival in Cologne,
Hmm.
in Ukraine, if some like you can sit and drink tea or coffee, and you can hear the shahed,
Right,
uh,
right.
defense system. Like, in you continue to drink even in front of the windows. Me, I'm so sorry, but I can be in front of the windows drinking the coffee. But when I was in Cologne, I'm living in Cologne during this festival. It's 3 days or 4 days, I don't remember. And I heard a lot of sounds that make me really make me worried. A lot of sounds are very similar with the war, and
Hmm.
it's like I was more peaceful in Ukraine, but when I was in Cologne, I heard a lot of sounds, and these sounds were like a Russian attack or siren, and or it was too much noisy with this dab dab dab. And I can
Yeah,
understand that it's you we are not healthy at all. And really, I don't want to see people in Italy, in Germany, in like us with same problems. Like, I want to save this peace, really.
right.
And that is why I want to share with these people our reality. I want to say, for example, one of the most important message about Crimea, and for example, Germany, Canada, United States, France, Italy, they didn't recognize deportation of Crimean Tatars in 1944 like genocide. So
Amen.
this is big states that are leaders of free world. They didn't recognize it.
Right.
Why? Why they didn't do it? Because they're still they still need this decolonization, in the sense of this union and friendship with Russian. Because, for example, Germany have has big history with Russian.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, every war they were together. Crimean War they were together. German generals burned Han Palace in Crimea.
Right.
Burned. So they use European uh, you know um, uh, ideas for the army in the time of Catherine of the Second, and that is why they begin to be very powerful. And they have a lot of like in common in the bad way. For example, Crimea was for many Germans generation motherland. Like, in the
Hmm.
First World War, in Second World War, they saw that Crimea is a part of Germany, because they saw
Hmm.
that these is tribes came to the Germany from this
Right.
lands, and Russian deported us because they said we are collaborants with Germans. And it was, of course, it was lie, but in any case, we have common history.
Hmm.
And this
Hmm.
is a connection. It's about the history of Germany, and it's about of this reflection of own history, of own problems. Why you still thinking that Crimea is a, so, for example, if you Google Crimea in German language, you will find such description. Like, it's maybe it's Tatar, maybe it's a Turk, like part of the like language is a part of Osmanic family of languages, like not Tatar, not Turk, and they lived. So they don't live now, but they lived in
Right.
the past in Crimea. So for so they see Crimea through the Turkey, through the history of the Turkey, and through the
Right.
Russian history, and that is why for them still uh, deportation of Crimean Tatars is not genocide. It's
And I think
just
that's
really,
what's so important is that you're getting an air raid right now where you're at, by the way, for our
yeah,
viewers. Yeah.
it's okay.
Do y'all hear that, everybody? The life that our sister goes through there, and our other citizens there. Everyone should hear that. Waha, waha. Yeah, and um, the people who are here, you and I talked about this last week after the Rick's stream, where I said we need to do more to bring those voices to the Western audience more directly because Western press has failed this topic for 12 years now plus. But we don't have to keep worrying about failing. We'll just do it. We'll take the time to build our own news direct conduit, and you can name every voice you think should be someone who covers that, and we just keep producing content. So, we'll write the history for 2026.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to be this weapon, like in a cultural way. I'm ready
That's
to,
it.
it was like application for, I forgot this organization, and I write to this application. I wrote that I'm ready to do concert, to do performance, to do rally on all streets of Europe or
Yeah.
Germany. I'm ready to do it, and I have the power to do it because I can share it with this. I can say that, for example, we first we have to, for example, liberate Crimea culturally, in our mind, in understanding. So we
Right.
don't now we even don't need to liberate Crimea with the weapons, just with understanding that Crimea is not part of Russian. That
Hmm.
people are speaking in Crimea in Russian not because like it's a choice of the people or the territories of Russia. No, it's because of colonization, because they changed the population, because they deported Crimean Tatars, and in the beginning when Catherine of the Second occupied Crimea, we were like we we were main nation. Like 19% of Crimean Tatars in Crimea, and in the end it was like 25%, like before the deportation, and after
Right.
the deportation zero, of course, and after the we coming back, it was just now it's, I think, 15% or something like this. So, and when somebody, and it's also about propaganda, Russian propaganda about Crimean Tatars, because you can find even Ukrainian that will say about us that we are from Tatarstan, or we are part of Mongols, of Genghis Khan, or like, and we are not native people. We are like minority, national minority. So we can find such topics that really stupid because because it's not make you strong. It's make, for
Right.
we are talking about Ukrainian. It's make you part of Russia, like a Russian world. But it's okay because we have many centuries and years of Russian propaganda,
Right.
and that is why we have to work more, and to explain the people that Crimea is a part of indigenous people.
One of our viewers here, Andrei Kononenko, says Crimean Tatar people are an integral part of the nation of Ukraine. And I've seen that here. I've seen that, like, it's one thing for you as the Crimean Tatar to say this to me and some of my other friends from that community. But when other people say, "Oh, man, like absolutely," and they express that bridge as well, strongly, no less, I think that that is also something that has to be said more in the West, is to so that the Americans and Canadians and British, and I'll just stick to the Americans because I know that's whose education system is so fucked up right now. There's nothing on television to say. By the way, there's a difference, but it's also, so like, yeah, they need to not hear like this blet Steve Witkoff. I get so triggered to hear, okay, but at least we'll give away Crimea. You're not giving a fucking thing away. No one else is getting to do any of that, so
But
eh,
I can I really believe that we can share with these ideas. For example, if somebody I know there's really big problems in the West Wall. Like for West Wall, maybe it's also like propagandistic stuff, but in Europe, in Western
mhm,
Europe, in United States, it's about we have a lot of young people that are against capitalism,
mhm,
and they are really like communism, Soviet time, and like unite the, for example, communism, Soviet ideas with Islam together. So and it's really crazy, and it's like, yeah, the world, for the United States or Europe need decolonization, but not in this way. Don't We don't need to see Soviet world in Europe or in United States, and we have to decolonize this understanding of some union of such, for example, Russian ideas of the
mhm.
world, of some of the history, and when indigenous. So why I also created this project, the colony. So my project has this performance, the colony, because we have problems everywhere. So, for example, if I'm talking with my friend Kyle from Australia, and he said we need a lot of decolonization because we also have the problems with indigenous people, that the government still doesn't recognize a lot of
That's right.
mistakes and still try to hide this, and also when you hide your problems, you don't want to like understand why Russian did same thing, because for people it's really hard, especially why I also took my performance to Tunisia, to the on the African continent, because I want to share with this idea that white people like Russian colonizers for another European people. So it's not
Exactly.
about only European people, and for example another people with different skins, colors of the skins. It can be just awful colonizers of Ukrainian people. For
Right.
example, if you are talking about famine in Ukraine, you could not find such famine on the African continent, but you can find
Mhm.
such famine in Ukraine, with the richest lands, with the
Mhm.
grain, with every, you can imagine how it's big crime to do it on the land
Right.
that has everything, and we have the really perfect nature. We have everything for the life, but they created a famine and killed millions of people, big numbers of the people, and hopefully it's only after the full scale war a lot of states really organized this like genocide against
Mhm.
Ukrainian,
Mhm.
because it was also big Russian propaganda during the many centuries, many years. They tried to say that it was not genocide. It was just because we have bad weather. It was against all nations, not only
Uh,
in Ukraine. But it was exactly like Timothy Snyder said. It's because they want to repeat it. Why
right.
state don't want to organize it? Because they will repeat it. And exactly why people in different states didn't recognize Russian like deportation of Crimean Tatars,
Right.
and why it's dangerous, because Russian can repeat it, and still Crimean Tatar have this fear that Russian will deport it again, Crimean Tatars. So you can say, we have like we have evacuated everybody, and so like
Yeah, and when I hear Donald Trump and that his people say, "Oh, the poor Iranian people, we want to free them today," and which is fine. I'm perfectly great with removing the terrorist leaders of the country, knowing that I have respect and kindness with the ground level people. But it's like, I know that another group, while we're on the topic, that would really need this that you've been avoiding for the last several years while Russia bombs the fuck out of us here.
yeah,
And, if you wanted to stop a war, if you wanted to save the people, if you wanted to look out for, and so it's what makes it so easy to see this through their lies, because they look right over what's happening here. They look what happens over Crimea as if it's just land. And if you ask Steve Witkoff, says, you know what, I will give you $20 million right now if you can tell me anything about Crimean Tatar people. He would stare in the distance with nothing to say because it's not a real estate deal or something.
yeah.
And so it's very important for us to get this message out there for that reason.
Yeah, it's craziness because really, we can fix everything from the beginning. With
Hmm.
supporting of United States, with supporting of the world, but we continue to fight. Of course, with supporting of our friends, with but not with supporting that it's not enough for like for changes. And it was
Yeah,
so funny when Trump said, I, Biden was so stupid. He gave rockets to Zelensky, but we need like to fix everything in Iran. But like it was stupid idea to support, and it was like. And it's like it's craziness because it's madness because really I support changes in Iran. Really, I know that this nation is not
sure,
Russian. This
sure.
nation really fight with all their heart, spirit. They are very brave, and Iranian people are similar with Crimean Tatars. We have a lot of from Persian culture, and it
Hmm.
is why, for example, we are the first like one of the first in the Europe that organized a rights of women. It was in the
Hmm.
beginning of 20th century by our leaders Nomanchely Bijihan, who tried to create its first Crimean Tatar Democratic Republic, but Russian occupied us, Red Russian, and killed 300 of people, killed Nomanchely Bijihan, threw him in the Black Sea. And it's really bad because for Muslims it's really bad when you are like in the water, like you killed without without you can't be killed with
Yeah,
respect, but you could not be even your relatives could not поховати тебе, забула це слово. Like to bring it to like bring to your soul to the peace. They
right,
just
right, right,
killed, shot in it, and destroyed everything. So
right.
we have a lot of in common with the Persian culture in
Hmm.
architecture, in everything. Even I think more in common than with the Turkey. And I feel a lot of in common, especially with the spirit of women power, with the spirit of this freedom, and I really want to see changes. And but uh, if we will win Russia, if we will change this, it help a lot of nations. It's
That's true.
help Iranian. It's help in
That's right.
Tajikistan. One of my friend from Tajikistan, she is a journalist. Of course, she ran from Tajikistan because Tajikistan has also authoritarian regime. So it's
Right.
absolutely awful. Like not communist, but they have all this tradition of red NKVD, of all this FSB idea. So it's really a full state. And she
Yeah,
ran, and I don't know, she lives now somewhere in Europe, and she said to me the victory in Ukraine will liberate Tajikistan too, because Russians support all this fucking sorry leaders.
You're free
Uh,
here. Speak
yeah,
the truth.
even in
Buona
Iran,
сказали правду.
yeah, all Iran, even about Iran, the modern region in Iran is because of supporting of Russia so in Soviet time.
Mm-hmm.
So even something in the Hamas too, all this proxy terroristic group, they're supporting by Russian, and they are very good in this. They support such terroristic group in on the African continent,
That's right.
and it's like cancer. In general,
Yeah,
Soviet Union is a cancer. They created this communistic China. They created the communistic Korea, and it's like cancer. It's and when I see news from the Olympic Games, from another festivals, when European people try to support Russian, try to be friends and
exactly.
said, let's make the peace between aggressor and victim. And for me, it's a madness because I think you are stupid. Do you know?
Well,
Did you
and the
know the
idea that
history?
yeah, the idea that culture is used, you know, the premise that our friend that's here actually joined us. You remember the video I sent you of my best friend interviewing Zhemilev?
Yeah. Hmm.
He's here in the chat with us, by the way.
Wow. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. So, and in this conversation that he and I had about a year plus ago about culture, in doing it and reading this very important aspect that I think is getting lost in the war, is I said, how can you stop genocide if you have tickets to the Bolshoi Ballet? Um, because at that point you're compromised. You know, how can you do that if you're going to a poetry reading? But it's not the poet's fault; it's the soldiers, it's Putin's. No, no, no. You can't stop the genocide because football match. You can't stop the genocide because chess federation. You can't. You know, it's like whatever the fucking excuse is. So long as you bring the Russians in at the table to participate and normalize them on a cultural level, the more genocide continues.
Yeah.
Now, we wouldn't let like ISIS do this. Does anyone remember the ISIS chess champion? No. If the ISIS chess champion was blown up, would anyone care? No, they'd be like, "Yay!" But if it's a Russian, Sedobra, and it's like this has to stop. This really has to stop. And you know why you doing what you're doing so perfectly is important, in my opinion, and I'm qualified at this opinion, no less. I'm arrogant enough to tell everyone I am very qualified at this opinion. Is it is exactly what they want gone, and the more we hear your voice, the more they lose.
Yeah. I'm agree with you because, uh, when somebody cannot understand why, for example, a Russian could not be on same festival with Ukrainian together. Because when oppressed nation is together with a nation that represent in real time, in online genocide and
Hmm.
destruction, you cannot hear the voice of victims because you
Yeah.
will hear the voice of aggressor. And I really respect some of Russian who can understand this and who can, even though I didn't see the Russian. For example, I heard such thoughts from my friend from Australia. He said, "I don't want to post my lyrics because I want to hear your lyrics and lyrics of Ukrainian people."
Right.
Because I want to give this space for your voices because we need to hear you. And
Hmm.
when Russian don't understand this,
Hmm.
it means that they have big illness.
Hmm.
They could not understand why they are part of this monster, why they are still very dangerous. And good Russian for me are much more dangerous than like Putin's Russian
Right.
because they are very smart. They want to like have all opportunities. They want to like break these sanctions. They want that Russian oligarchs will support their war, their projects, and everything will be great. And unfortunately, it works really. because like we see a lot of festivals in White Russian, um,
Yeah.
a lot of and what I see in this, I just see is a big war. I just see a lot of deaths and a lot of future sufferings, future, like it just not because I just want to the Russian will, yeah, I want the Russian will never exist in this world,
Я
but
також.
no,
Зрозуміло.
but I just see that it will bring a lot of pain to these nations. Just because we saw everything from the past. We saw everything in the past when Hitler occupied Poland, and everybody
Yeah.
wanted to just think that it's just small war against the Poland. Poland will be part of Germany. It will be enough. Or
Yeah.
it was really I talked today with my friend, and I said it before. I could not imagine how a lot of people could support killing of Jewish people. How it could impossible, how you can be alright if near with you will burn a lot of people just
Right.
because they're Jewish. And now I understand 100% how it's work, because I see this is anti-Semitism, this
Yeah.
reborn anti-Semitism, and I can understand how, for example, somebody can create this idea that the Jewish people are wrong and Jewish people bring this end of the world or something like this, and so they are dangerous, and we just see it again. We can feel it
Right.
like it's like it's so stupid, because I believe that people are smart. Why older than me people could not understand that we saw it in the, why people in the United Nations, why people somewhere else could not understand that it's not about the peace, when you said it, let's hug each other and be friends again. And
Yeah.
if you will hug our aggressor will stop. No,
And here's a
aggressor
big
will.
category. Let me go to two big categories that I didn't finish this article this week. I wrote, I don't know, 9 articles this week, but there's one that I apologize to everyone that did not deserve my tardiness on this. The United Nations just had a vote to condemn the Taliban's treating of women as dogs, and the United States voted against condemning them. Like, this is an easy one to get right. This is so fucking easy to get. You just vote no. You vote or you vote against it, whatever, however the resolution read. Yes, we vote that Taliban should not treat women as dogs. And someone from the United States, probably Melania Trump, went, "No, I'm with the Taliban." Suka, like, just like, it's so
Oh.
easy to get this right, for fuck's sake. And yet, you know, the reason why I wanted to write that piece, and I will get this piece out real shortly, is I wanted to show how when we hear the Americans say, we want to protect the Iranian people, which is bullshit. They don't. They have no, because everyone knows they're still Muslims. Yeah, which means you had no idea that you wanted to protect them, because we know Donald Trump does not like Muslims. Um, so I would rather just cut through it where we actually don't have lies running the show. It's like, you don't care about Muslims yet. You don't care about women yet. You don't care about children yet. You care about money. Yeah. So just say that, for fuck's sake. Just say it so we can get to the remedies. Because then what they do is they keep pretending that they like women. They pretend they like Muslims when it's convenient. They pretend they like children unless they're fucking them. Like, I could go on and how depraved these evil monsters are, but the fact that we still have to do something to help women, first and foremost, before we divide into our regions, is like, can we please look out for women for fucking once in my lifetime before I die, instead
Mm,
of subservient humans?
mm,
So that would be category one. And then the second one, because you're Muslim, is that I wrote a piece a few weeks back after I got so sick of Twitter. Just everywhere I turn is another ignorant comment. It's like, I asked one of them, I said, so you work for ISIS, do you? Hey, no, 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 no. You obviously do. You're really reading their playbook. I know. I wrote a book about their propaganda. I know it inside and out. You are literally all they had to do is copy paste your post and post it to recruit. Copy paste your post and post it to charge up the fighters that are fighting them, because you obviously don't know that you're part of the problem. In fact, you are the fucking problem, because Muslims represent almost 2 billion people on this planet, and the math clearly shows that Muslims are victims of violence, oppressed by the West. And it's just like, can we please just get in the 21st century for for a moment? Because I don't feel we're in the future. I feel like we're stuck somewhere that we mythologize as the crazy past. No, no, it's the crazy current. You know.
You know what
Um,
I want to say? Also, when
Thank you for
someone,
letting me get that off my chest because it bugs me.
you know, when I also said that a lot of people said the history repeat itself, but you know what I want to say?
Yeah,
It was opposite of my so it's 5 minutes ago, but I think that we live still in the past world.
yeah,
We live in the world of people like Trump and older,
yeah.
not in the modern world. And unfortunately, the young people begin to be also the old. Like I have to,
It's true.
like begin to have the same, and I know the same characteristics, same. Like it's like about the inner world, even not about
Right.
age, but in general I feel that we still are living in the old world. Like Putin is also
Yeah.
not young person, and they are very stupid. It's like Putin is very stupid. Trump is very like I don't know. It's really absurd
Trump дуже
how
старий і дуже божевільний.
how a lot of people begin to serve this person, begin to be like dogs of this person. And for me, uh, what you are talking about the women, and for me, it's really begin to be a big danger. I really am afraid to find myself in the world when I will have no rights because I'm in a women body.
Yeah,
I'm afraid from different sides, from Muslim world, because it could be a Muslim world with a, uh system without rights, uh, regions, and without choice to be yourself.
that's
So
right.
you can be religion person, and you can be free. You can be LGBT person. You can be where you want. You can be free. But I'm afraid to find myself in the world without
Right.
these rights, especially because, for example, Crimean Tatars are part of Muslim world, part of like we European nation. And
Right.
what why I believe in my still believe in my nation, because we were free. We have still we have this new ideas, and we are like a bridge between Europe and like східний світ, я не знаю, как правильно сказать, no, Oriental world
Right.
of
Right.
world of, because Crimea, what I also begin to understand that Crimea, it was another civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Crimea is very different than Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
and we just lost it. And when you begin to find yourself, you begin to understand that you are very far from Ukraine because you're from different world, but you can be part of Ukraine too. And you can you can make Ukrainian culture rich, more interesting, with this bridge to the
Right.
world that people don't know. And I don't know, because I begin to know it step by step by myself, because I was colonized, I was Russophiled, I lost everything. I didn't know a lot of poetry of Crimean Tatar. I don't know my language. You can imagine, I lost my language, and I begin to learn it now when I'm adult. Why? Because Russian to push us to see that we want, like for example, when I was after the university, I thought I'm a person of the world. I'm dreaming about the world without border, without flag, without. I want to like hug, like everybody will hug each other, and
Yeah.
it will be.
Yeah.
It was my dream. It was my but the problem was that why I'm seeking all this in Russian language, and why for example, I live in Moscow for years, and why I think in this way through the Russian world,
Right.
because Russian created such propaganda, because through this pacifistic minds, when you
Exactly.
think that you can be like free from everything from the system, you are in the system. You
Right.
just have no will. You have no dignity. You have no understanding. You lost your identity. You lost your knowledge about your culture, language, poets that Russian killed. Just they killed and like erased their history. Nobody told about this people to us children. Like I told,
Exactly.
I had a lot of Matisse books, but I didn't have like a lot of books of Crimean Tatars artists. But they are also great.
Right.
It was also Russian propaganda about that Russian culture is so great, or European culture is very great. But culture could not be greater or less beautiful. Every culture is very powerful. Every culture is full of different ideas, and it's also about this world of decolonization. And so really I want to I want that my nation will be very democratic, still with own identity. And it's very hard because I feel this influence of Arabic world, of you know of this when you begin to when your identity erased, because you can be you can be just
Yeah.
Muslim, not Crimean Tatar. And how looks Muslim?
A
They look
different
similar,
assimilation, a different
and
assimilation
it's
where
also
your
an
identity's
assimilation.
wiped out. Yeah.
Yeah, but for example, if we're talking with you, we were talking with you about Islam,
Right.
and
Right.
what I want to say about Islam in Crimea. I want to say tell you about the Sufism, Sufi,
Yeah,
Dervish,
I'm actually a student of Sufism.
and we had different schools in Crimean Hanat
Uh-huh.
with great poets, with great no spiritual organization, and with different like has Tekiya Dervish, like it's like mosque,
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
schools, and Russian erases, kill these people, kill this tradition. We lost it. We lost
Yeah.
tradition of Sufism. We lost this, and just
Mm.
what I understood, we lost it like tradition and like school, but we have it in our blood. We have in
Right.
our traditional understanding of the nature. Because when I'm talking about my grandparents, I can feel that they had this connection with the spiritual power was of like breeze, water, and with this union of the stars of universe. And for me, believing in God, in Allah, it's about this, about searching of the truth in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
about the love. Because, for example, Ashik, for example, I have
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
community Ashiks. Ashik, if you will translate it, it's like um, like somebody who in love with something, like закоханный. How to say in English закоханный? Please help me, somebody. Закоханный. So it's like Dervish Ashik. It was the poet, the monk that was in love with the God, and love in God is like highest level of the love.
Right. Right.
Absolutely, love in absolute. And
Yeah.
for me, it is
Roman says,
Islam.
my beloved.
For me, yeah, my beloved, my
Yeah.
beloved. And for me, it is Islam. For me, it's not about why I need to judge.
Zakohani. Yeah.
Закоханы. Hello, Rick. Why I
So,
need
by the
to.
way, Rick has a new account with us on Substack. Enamored, Andri, Master Language says enamored. So, for those who already know Yarek, or my brother Rick the Ukrainian, he is now also on Substack, and it's a great platform for him as well. So, he has joined with us here, and also Я тобі бажаю здоров'я, because he is currently
Oh,
fighting
yeah.
sickness,
Please.
and he's our hero. Isn't he like our street hero with his camera and
Yeah.
his dedication, and then his live streams? Молодец, bro. So
And
we
we're
want,
supporting your army in a big scale, in a constant, like constant in the big work of Rick. And also Rick, I want to say that Rick also part of my way of music, because Rick's community rollers support me with buying the stuff for professional streaming. So
yeah,
everything that you saw in on the stream, this sound,
yes,
it's because of Rick supporting and roller supporting
yes.
microphones, everything.
Well, Rick says heroes are on the front line.
Yeah,
And today I did an interview with a national hero of Ukraine named Mykola Melnik. And I'm sorry, Yarek. I think there's a little hero built in your way of doing things too. I understand his argument, though. Don't get me wrong. We know the distinction between the soldiers who are in the front. But the reason why I say that is that he is not a man who, Rick the Ukrainian. So when I say he, it's not a man who's doing what he's doing for like self glory or like what it does for his day. I'm sure something comes back for him on this emotionally. I get that part. But I see him, no matter what's going on, it's got to happen. And every weekend, Shonadila, Vintam's Aktia, he doesn't give up, and he does something selflessly to help many, many people. And he has дуже багато емоцій зараз. He always asks me, is there someone you know who we need to tell their story? And he will tell you, yeah, I'll be right back. Every single time. If he just says, we'll go with this, yeah, I'll be right back. Hold on. Elena, yeah, Moshna. Say, oh, hey, Rick, this is Elena. And her son said, okay. And I just step back. And then Rick does a great job immediately so yeah, brother, you got it right.
yeah.
Molodets. And he's here with us. That's why I'm bringing him up and putting all that light on him. So, and that's how we met you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Rick, for everything, and for meeting with a lot of great people, soldiers, volunteers, with you. So it's really, I will never meet you without Rick, because it's really a great gift for me.
Yes.
Uh, to know such people, to touch a little bit, and it's really great. Thank you so much, Rick, and Chris, for your work. Chris, you work a lot too, and it's really brave for you to stay in Ukraine, because I know some people who wrote to me, I will visit Ukraine after the war. And I said,
I'm okay with
okay,
that.
I
Come
will
on
wait.
later. We'll try to be here.
Well,
I
probably.
plan on being here, but thanks for the thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, but you know how a lot for me, if person don't doesn't wait of end of the war, and right now is here because we need this supporting a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
Really, it's inspired people to fight, and it's like also like it's also like to be beloved.
Yeah.
We love you and you love us, and we can fight and we can inspire, like have this inspiration to continue, create new world
Hmm.
on different levels, and to support
Hmm.
our army, because why also stop to create art, from one, like in the beginning of full scale war I begin to think that Ukrainian army is creators of changes.
Right.
So really, yeah, now I can understand that maybe art and music is working in the like during the time.
Hmm.
Maybe it
Hmm.
can help through the time. It can change something, but
Hmm.
right now, Ukrainian army changed a lot.
Right.
brings something new in this world. And it's really in spiritual way, in the science, like in different ways. they are they're on the top. They are it's something very powerful for me, our army.
Right.
Our army in the part of these changes, because we have still a lot of problems, because we have a lot of Soviet Soviet parts of army. So we it's really big problem, but for me it's normal, because you can't see the changes in like in even in 4 years, because well, you can
Yeah.
imagine how Russian change the minds of the people, because it's all also about the minds.
Yeah.
Because when
I
you can.
mean, one of the things I do in my work as a journalist is chart a whole lot of different things that happen in Ukraine. And one of the ones that I did, actually, I was with my friend in Lviv when we saw this one road going up to like an apartment or Airbnb, and it looked like shit. And he's like, "Well, this is what the corruption is, you know." Some guy walked away with 30,000 hryvnia or whatever the number was, that 300,000 hryvnia to repair. And I still didn't understand this term that was always being used around me. So I took the time to look at 25 years of corruption fight here. And what Ukraine has shown is it always was improving on its quality, except during Yanukovych years. That's the only time that there was a dip in progress. And these numbers are determined by an organization, and I talk about this on my stream often, called the Transparency Corruption Index. And it's big investors who look at every country from Norway to South Sudan, from top to bottom, and figure out like investment numbers and trends. And so Ukraine is always doing this number, getting better, even though it doesn't feel that way to people stressed out of here. But the countries that are yelling at Ukraine are all going down, including America, meaning that the quality of life is being corrupted because of Russia in many cases. Slovakia, Hungary, all on the decline, but Ukraine is going the exact opposite direction. It just doesn't feel fast enough in the war. It doesn't feel fast enough for another generation that doesn't want to inherit the Russian Soviet corruption,
Yeah, yeah.
which is
uh,
what it is.
it's really Ukraine. Was colonized by Russian, while
Right.
also till the Russian occupied Crimea. Crimea, in the eyes of Ukrainian, were more Russian like it was Russian autonomy inside of Ukraine.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Crimean Tatars were like somebody who came into Crimea.
Hmm.
I never felt myself like I'm at home in Crimea,
Mm.
because we didn't have opportunity. We didn't we were like black people in Crimea, like churka,
Hmm.
like Russian like to call us. People are like with another skin and with another images that not like Russian or Ukrainian.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's really it was another world in Ukraine too. Of course, we saw these changes. We saw this revolution of dignity, and it was so big step.
Hmm.
And after this, after the occupation of Crimea, Ukraine understood it about Crimea more. Understood that they were colonized by Russian too.
Right.
So it
Right.
was they saw this world through the Russian eyes. So they saw us also through the Russian eyes, that we betrayed Ukraine or Russian or Soviet Union.
Right.
We burned Kiev because we were like children of Genghis Khan, or we are like I found one person who said to me, when I said that my nation was deported, she said, but it's your karma because you burned Kiev.
Oh fuck.
It's your
Oh
burned
my
karma,
god.
and that's why you reach everything from yourself. You were like not good to our girls, Christian girls, because your traces girls, you were like something like this. This is why you were deported because your karma was not so good. And also from Russian world, it's Russian view.
Right, right.
And then this person can, after this they said something about the Ukraine, about like I love Russians for example. So it's a one, like it's like one world. So, and
Yeah,
corruption is a part of Russian world. And uh, for example, Poland was not a long time in Russian, so they have more opportunity for changes. Baltic state also less time in Russia, so they have more opportunities to be free. But we were longer
right.
with Russian, and it's really changed a lot and killed a lot of. Also, they killed our will through the genocide too, through the famine, for example. For example, my mom said that my grandfather said Crimean Tatars begin to be different after the deportation, because
Hmm.
when you were killed by famine, by deportation, you begin to be more slave. You begin to
Right.
afraid to say some against the system, because you remember how your ancestor died without food and
And
water.
then you have an inherited, like an inherited lesson book that's taught as survival, but it's actually a cultural form of or identity form of genocide. Like, don't do this. Like in America, we have the warning that black parents give their sons and daughters when they go out in public, especially sons. Whatever you do, and you run into a police officer. And I never got that speech looking like I do. People, whole categories of people I know never got that speech. But young black men had to get that lecture to save their lives. And then what happens, and when it's in other areas, it creates a different set of problems when that's how your day starts and that's how your day ends, that
Yeah,
no one else has to go through. And then policies are made. And then the white guy, like in America, the white guy who never had that speech is like, this is dumb. That doesn't happen. This is it. You're just, and I hear that now here, you know, and I don't mean like in Ukraine specific, but in this region where, you know, Russia's dominance is said to Georgians and said to, Armenians and Azerbaijani who, these rivalries that happen in history that are really because of empires. It wasn't because of them and entirely, it was the empires as well who pit them against each other, who remove their identity and then create a tier structure by which you fight at the bottom to avoid, being persecuted from the top. It's terrible. And
yeah.
not, and it's misunderstood and lost.
So I
Mm.
have one song, Mankurt.
Mhm, mhm.
It's about, this word Mankurt.
Mm,
Did
nee,
you
nee, nee.
hear? Mankurt. It's about the Turkish word, like about a person who begin to, like, slave
Uh-huh,
who
uh-huh.
begin to serve your master. So it's like
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
you
So,
betray
yeah.
your nation and begin
Right.
to serve your, like, for Moskowitz, for example, you begin to serve Moskowitz, and we call this Mankurt.
Okay.
And Mankurt
We
can
have terms
be,
for that in America too. It's basically called the house slave. So
yeah,
there's the field slave, the yard slave, the house slave, as taught by Malcolm X and others. That said, we know where you work, and you woke up and you cried for master so hard. We saw you. You
yeah,
cried for master when master was ill. You gave him a sniffle rag, and when master and it's deep within the politics I grew up in. So from my teenage years on, like these were my teachers, were folks who had gone through this, and generations. That's what they would have to remind is like, oh, did you think we're talking about 150 plus years ago? No, look at Congress right now.
you know. I had the idea. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me that Obama was a little bit Mankurt, because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Said to me.
I let me say this. I know within the black community activists that were actually closer to me, no less, that's how they felt. Like And here's why. They said, well, that's funny. Like Jesse Jackson just passed away, who ran for president. Like they would all say, I could name a whole bunch of people we put on that card, and no one wanted to vote for them, but they'll vote for the agreeable one. Now, that's not his fault. It's the place he's put in,
Yeah, maybe.
largely by white liberals who suddenly go, oh, a black man we like. When they ignored every other, and it just happened in Texas with Jasmine Crockett losing to a white man, James Tarlico, I think is his name. And Jasmine Crockett is amazing. She's on fire. She's a master of rhetoric, right back at these people. And they had to vote her out because she's a black woman. And if anyone argues with me, you're wrong, because that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. A
Yeah, yeah.
black woman ran against a white man, and they all voted for the white man again.
I just maybe because I'm angry because exactly when Russian occupied Crimea, he has the
Mm-hmm.
power to like to stop this, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't do it, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a big mistake. I
Mm-hmm.
think a big mistake, and like Mancourt, it's about when you maybe you looks like a friend of somebody, like you represent this culture, but you are not support this culture. You not support these ideas. You just you're like a chameleon. You're like you you change yourself for the
Mm-hmm.
rights of another groups of the people,
Right.
and you just use your image as just you represent this democracy on like you are brave or something like this. So
Right.
maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't want to say about this, just you talk
No.
about the United States, so I said I'm so sorry if I'm not right. And in general, I really hate when Trump always said something bad about another president, and always made so crazy
Yeah.
madness in this world.
Both things can be true where Trump is a complete racist asshole for the way he criticizes Obama, but at the same time, the politics within someone like Obama, especially towards when it comes to the opinions here in Ukraine and Crimea, specifically being the ones who paid the price of, well, we'll try this route and we'll try this, but didn't try direct intervention. You know, and I will say one thing, and not to defend him, but to put it in historical context. He inherited the United States problems after George Bush invaded a country under lies and sought to occupy it, not the way Russia would like to occupy Ukraine, but at least to subvert, to, you know, basically to take away the will of the sovereign nation itself, you know. And so when Obama came into office, the first thing was we're going to go around the world and apologize for being the ones who did that, which meant he was not the guy for the action in Crimea. We needed someone like McCain who would have said, "You're going to get the fuck out today," and and it wasn't done. Plain and simple. We could argue the parts all we want.
Yeah,
One more thing is I'll put the blame around a little further because this is why Republicans are not going to win with me on this topic. I know the votes, and the votes to, for instance, he told the Congress, of course, we could take action in Syria to stop Assad. Here's the bill that should go be passed, and the Republicans would vote for it. And they talk this way one time, and then they vote an opposite way at the
yeah,
same time. And
yeah.
so then they like, we're the hawkish type, really? Yeah, here's the bill. Yeah, vote for it. But Obama, and so there. That's where I'm so frustrated. I'm an independent, so I can shoot at both parties rhetorically and walk away fine because I don't do parties. I do people.
Yeah,
I'm about people. You know.
yeah. It's great,
Ugh.
really. It's only one reason I think to be independent and to choose this way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard way because it's not so easy to do your work without supporting of any like no power, but
Yeah.
it's really good in great way to do something really important. What I want to say about
Yeah.
Mancourt, just
Go
I
for it.
want to share with you some information about me because my grandparents were Crimean Tatars and my grandmothers my grandfathers were Crimean Tatars, and my grandmothers were Tatars from Bostanova.
Mm-hmm.
So they ran from the collectivization to Crimea and lived in Crimea and were deported together with Crimean Tatars. So I have the blood also from Bostanova. Bostanova is a really interesting place because it's ground built Han from Crimea.
Mm-hmm.
So one son kick another son, like one brother kick another brother from Crimea, Hanat, and he like built oven like place, oven kingdom near with Astrakhan and created this like
Okay.
small place with the Astrakhan Tatars.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this in the blood, and I want to tell you 100% that it's absolutely different nations, and this is Tatars in Astrakhan in Kazan. They are more slaves because they
Right.
lived under Russian occupation more centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And they suffer too much. They are all a lot of alcoholic. They are half blooded, so they most of them they are thinking about themselves like they are Russian, and they really like I really disrespect them. And long time I was ashamed to say that I have such blood.
Mm.
Really, um, really, identity is more about your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It's about more about your choice because I feel I'm a Crimean Tatar. I feel this philosophy. I feel this way of thinking. But still, the nature is a nature. And
Right.
for one moment, especially when maybe you remember, um, years ago, it was very popular Bashkir song in Ukraine. It was in the top. I forgot the name of this music band, and Ukrainians support this song because they maybe could not understand that if they are in Bashkiria, they're also part of Russian and a Russian economy. And if you pay money for the music, you pay money for the Russian economy that will kill you.
Right.
And I was so angry that they really like sold this song in Bashkir language.
Right.
For me, it was not so good, like style. Really, it was cheap song, but maybe it was interesting for Ukrainian even because they have connection with Crimean Tatars because they have Jamal, because they have another music that's really very oriental. So Ukraine is not only Christian country. It's
Right.
Ukraine. We changed Ukraine a lot through the centuries.
Right.
So yeah, that is why they were in top. This group, this band was in top in Ukraine and in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Turk states like Azerbaijan, Turkey, and another states. They were in the top,
Right.
and I was so angry. And in some moment I understood that I can use my part, this my part against this. I can say my words to this
Mm-hmm.
bad part of myself, because it's also help Russian Russophile me more because how Russian colonized you. They
Right. Right.
support even with a law this mixing marriage in Ukraine too. So they support marriage between Russian and Ukraine, and so you can lost your identity. And in this reality, when Russian language is more important, you will be Russian in your mind. And the
Yeah.
same thing here. So they deported Crimean Tatars for changing their identity because you will be inside of Uzbekistan, of Kazakhstan. You will have this um you will lost, you will disappeared in another Muslim nation, for example.
Right.
And so it's really this mixing of the nations help Russian to refill me more, and I can understand why I lost the language because my parents, my mother didn't know Crimean Tatar language because she was uh, чужий. She was not from the family of Crimean Tatars, and she was not from the family of this Astrakhan Tatar. So
Right.
she was like everywhere, nobody, like in this way she lost her language, and then she could not share this language with own children. And so, and in this moment, I begin to live in Moscow, for example. It was
Hmm.
it. That is why I said that language, culture is so important. You just you can
C'est
you
moi je
can
level.
one moment you will be in Russian army because my, for example, cousins, they begin to live in. They didn't come back to Crimea. They begin to live in Moscow, and through the time, of course, they were against Putin, but they begin to be like good Russian. So you can imagine they choose another country. They choose Russian.
Right,
It's changed their identity absolutely.
right.
And I create the song in the language of Astrakhan people,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's so incredible song. I didn't share with you because I haven't the audio, like I haven't video with this song yet.
Okay,
But it's very powerful song about how Mancourt sells own mother for nothing.
okay.
How Mancourt uh like how Mancourt killed Owen's soul, kills Owen's soul and destroyed everything. And for me, it's also about how, for example, women cannot support women. Like you said it, I support Taliban. How we can support Taliban? You're a woman. It's really hard to understand
Like the
how you can.
women who voted for Trump.
Yeah, yeah. How you can support this because it just you killed yourself.
I mean,
You
on
killed
International
yourself.
Women's Day on Sunday, I even put part of my message. If you go watch the video I made on Sunday, for my friends here are watching right now, go catch the. It's not that long. I just took about 15 minutes to say to all the women and to you as well, since you're here, to all the women in this world and all the women I know, thank you beyond words for everything you do for all of us, for what you do by just being, not what you do for the task, but just being. Even, and I stopped it with, even you MAGA women who take care of a kid, take care of your kids, take care of your home, love your husband, whatever it is you do. Thank you for doing that. We'll talk about your votes another time. That's what I had to say because one of the things that's so difficult, like I don't know if you ever heard of this. There's a it's a fake letter historically, but it was used in activism called the Willie Lynch letter, and it was supposedly written in the 1600s, but really it wasn't. It was written in like the 1970s or late 60s. There was supposed to be a slaveholder named James Lynch, I think was his name, who said, I have a plan to solve your slave problem. See, you're beating your slaves, and this is bad for your investment. You've spent a lot of money, so there's a far better way. And the way is you divide them, old against young, tall against short, darker skins against lighter skins. And it just basically describes all, which is why it's actually a construct of the modern liberation movement, which is fine because even as a metaphor, it teaches so much, not just in the black community. I see it here. I see it, like you just mentioned, in every community, especially marginalized communities, because marginalized communities are already hit from so many sides that when it's like that inner oppression to give up and women sabotaging women has been one of the most frustrating. I know my place, I'm a man, but I try to always find a way to support so that I go just at least hear it when you hear it. When you hear a one woman sabotage another woman at that level, specifically at that level, don't participate, don't fuel it. If you can call it out, okay, but sometimes as men we got to know we fucked up more shit anyway. But it's really sad and it's very painful when I see, especially in voting, women shouldn't do this and women shouldn't do that. Who voted for that? Women. Oh, really? Please. Because my mom was great. My grandmother was great. My wife was great. Like, too many women in my life are just awesome and fantastic. So I don't want to see anyone vote against them. It's real simple,
Yeah,
folks, right? In the chat, can y'all just tell me if I'm crazy or is it just simple, straightforward math?
it's very like it's very easy to understand if you support human rights, if you support the future, you have to support the movement, you have to support all LGBT people, you have to support the right to be yourself, to be for person to be itself,
Yeah.
to um to live own life in own way. And yeah, I really, it's really stupid because I begin to feel a lot of gratitude to man who can understand this, because I'm shocked to see a lot of people from patriarchal, how to say right in
Patriarchy, yeah, or
yeah,
practically, yeah.
people who absolutely don't understand this,
Hmm.
absolutely don't understand why now it's a very very dangerous time, because I feel it, I feel like we can lost everything. And for me it's so clear, and so, but a lot of Ukrainian men could not understand this. And when I saw Ukrainian my friends, men that understand this support, I think, oh my god, you're so incredible, because you like you everything, and you are hope, because in another way we will be absolutely mad, because it's really very painful to feel it, very
Sure.
painful to understand that with a lot of math you cannot feel yourself safe at all. You
Hmm.
always are ready to to defend yourself, to
Hmm.
defend your from different, and it's really sad, because you have to be free together with different people, but you begin to understand that it's not it's not safe world, absolutely, especially
Yeah.
for non-binary person, for women, for it's not safe place. And
Right.
when you find such friends who can support you, who can be with you with a kind heart, with understanding, it's a lot for me. So thank you so much,
Oh, that's
Chris, and thank
awesome.
you so much, friends who are together with us with this understanding that it's so not about that, even about a woman, or it's about the world, it's about children, next generation, because it's really crazy. It's a madness. You cannot support Taliban or Russian in this case, because it's
How they
about
voted, how the
land.
United States voted to not vote in the right direction, still so gross. Women, here's the thing, like there are these moronic right wingers in America that talk about Muslim world oppression of women. I go, really? Would you like to name who's the president of Bangladesh, woman? Who's a, I just go down the whole list of leaders, prime ministers, presidents, head of caliphates even have been women, and yet America 250 years later still can't vote for a woman. Just can't fucking do it. Literally would elect a rapist felon than vote for a woman.
Yeah, but still, why
Mm,
Islam is sometimes is like, I'm from this world and I can say, like, I'm not support Trump and his ideas about this, but when a government, when state begin to be Islamic, it's a big dangerous.
agreed.
So we have to build a world with the Islam has to be choice, your choice, not your law.
Right.
You have to like, I know, for example, people who live in Algeria, and they said that it's really pity, it's really sad when in your ID they wrote you're Muslim in any case because you was born in Algeria, but you
Right.
can be not Muslim at all. You can just
Right.
be like believe in, I don't know, in the cat, not
Right.
because
The
it's your
sacred
choice.
hawk.
Yeah, if you want to be Muslim, you can be a Muslim. If you want to be Christian, you can be Christian. You can, if you want to be
Hmm.
atheist, you just live your life. And for me, that is why it's a danger.
Right.
And but yeah, we have a lot of peaceful states that have that where the Iran is the main religion of the people, but it's not the law. It's not the Islamic State,
Hmm.
because when it's Islamic State, it's for me it's a big danger, because my like next generation will never be safe in this moment, because yes, for example, this years it will be all right, but who knows when the next leader will be very like crazy person, and will create this prison for everybody.
Right.
And I don't want, and in general, yeah, it's not like it's not about maybe religion, but more like a lot of people said, it's about the people who see the religion in this way, because I
Actually, in the religion itself, there's a good argument that just like we see with the Christian evangelical extremists, that a deliberate misinterpretation of the prophet's teachings and hadith clearly show how wrong they are. And here it boils down to one specific phrase in there, daraba or daraba, um, to beat or to go away from. So, as you know about being Muslim, words could be misunderstood. What did he do? Here's what was said. Here's what he did. Okay. Did he beat his wife? How important was Aisha? Oh, she was very important. Okay. So obviously he didn't beat her because that would be in a conflict. So what would happen when they had an argument? He'd go away for a while. Seems kind of like good peaceful wisdom. You're having a conflict. Yeah. Well, maybe go take a walk. You're having a conflict. Yeah. Go a little time away and think about it and come back and have peace. So the fact that the phrasing when said, and these are linguistic scholars talking about the religion, saying, man, it all pivots on the way that this gets used and then turned into, your Friday equivalent of firebrand imams around the world that uh, are insecure little boys. And I never had that taught in Western cultural class about a religion so important as Islam. That took me late into my 30s to finally hear that from someone who was also a scholar of Islam who said, I am so tired of it being distorted. If okay, so if Quran says beat your wife, where's the passage where he beats his wife? Because was he not devoted? There is no passage where he beats his wife, and therefore, why is this being preached? It's being preached because it serves liars, essentially.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm still researching about the Quran and about everything, and I have a lot of I have a lot of questions, and it's really, I think it's good. And you have the question and till because I know that people who are really good in Quran, they said that still we don't know exactly the senses of a lot of words, because in Arabic you can find a lot of senses of one word,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really like poetry that you have to like understand to
Mm-hmm.
feel it, because the for the translation for me in Ukraine really dangerous, because I really found the sentence when they said that if your woman is not right, you can beat her, and for me it's not alright. Absolutely, for
Yeah.
me, for if for example some stupid person will go by these words, like Quran says says it, so I will do it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
I don't support this at all, and
Yeah.
I believe that it's not a good
Well,
choice.
it happens. I had an argument with the robotic apartheid Clyde, as we call it, Elon Musk. Grok on the official public timeline of Grok, meaning you're having an argument with tweets and you use Grok to respond. It said one thing about women teaching in church. Uh, Grok official, meaning grok.com, which is more of a very similar to ChatGPT in a certain way, it does it more correct. And it's real simple. If Jesus was able to teach Mary in rabbinic teaching, yeah, that's revolutionary. That was not allowed. That she was supposed to clean the house, not take rabbinic teaching. And yet, very specifically, there's a whole passage where he's teaching her the same as a disciple. And when then she's confronted by another woman, they're like, "Oh, you should be doing no. You're good to do this. She's here learning right now." So how is it that someone takes that tradition later and goes, "Women are not supposed to be in this role," but Jesus clearly put her in that role. He taught her no different than the men in the room, and it had not happened before in that rabbinic teaching, in the rabbinic tradition at all. And yet, because it serves men to translate it over and over again, to where women are not allowed to preach and teach and lead a church, that's what happens. And remember what I said, folks. I'm an independent. I don't take a vested stake in the religion. I have to. What does the thing say? What's the math? 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Just do the math. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real simple.
In
Until
general,
it's not. Until it's not.
religions are very patriarch. I always forget how to say this word, patriarchal.
Patriarchal.
Yeah,
Patriarchal.
very. So, in the center, it's not the woman, but it's the man.
Yeah.
And what I like, what I know, like, we begin to be, we women begin to be free, like, like, недавно, нещодавно, like, not a long time ago. So
Yeah.
it's our new time. Like, we didn't, like, our parents were absolutely in another, like, so it's only first step of these changes, I
Hmm.
believe.
Yeah.
Because it's like genocide. If, for example, some nation destroyed your opportunity for development, kill your nation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
took from your time, of course you will be not so powerful, not so strong. You will have, like Crimean Tatar, really
Right.
lost a lot of time. We lost our money, we lost everything. We still, for example, me, the new generation, I'm homeless.
Hmm.
Like, still, they took from us everything, took from
Hmm.
us ground, and ground it's for our development, because with the ground I can be much powerful. And now
Right.
I have nothing because of this too. And same with a woman. So they lost a lot of time, and they lost a lot of opportunity in the past, and it's only beginning of these changes. And it's all this,
Right.
like, this, that the percent of women in the power and everything is very small, and
Hmm.
it's all only first steps for this.
Yeah.
And I believe the changes in this will bring a lot of good thing, because it's really also another world. It's another way of thinking. It's step by step. I also research this because, for example, I recognize myself as, like, non-binary person, but of course I'm biologically woman. But
Hmm.
in general, for me, it's about the like, more of, like, more space for creation of yourself,
Hmm.
for new rules, um for understanding that world is not binary. So world is not like two sides. It's all a lot of colors, a lot of tones, a lot of
Yeah.
like differences. So it's about this. And like, I don't know, maybe it's not important, but for me it's just, I just understood it's right this day, that it's only the beginning. Like, it's only like small changes, because
Дуже важливо. Це дуже
100 years
важливо.
ago we had nothing. Like,
Yeah.
100 years ago, 200
Yeah.
years ago, we could not, I don't know, learn the arts, or something like this. So it's
Yeah.
really like, you can imagine, it was only like slave for the man.
There was a video clip that and I looked up to make sure math was correct, but there was a video clip that was on Instagram a few weeks ago where a right wing racist in America, young guy too, probably in his in young 20s, says, "Well, I mean, but you can't argue that these other people have lower IQs." And the other guy who's running the video says, "Well, do you know why?" Well, because no, it's not because they're black. It has a lot to do with nutrition, access, and he ran down the facts. And so he pulls out the numbers and he starts explaining. He goes, okay, so what we found was, and I forget the name of the report, and my friends, I will actually dig up the report because I've made a note of it. They showed how when you invest in better health, better nutrition at a younger age, and access to these resources, IQs go back up. IQs can change based on like better nutrition, big thing right there. If you just make sure that children growing up have the correct nutrition, that's a pretty good indicator that they will become better IQ, better chances of learning. If you have better opportunity, let's just get out. Let's say the nutrition's fine. Everyone's able to eat just fine. But you get rid of the oppression language. You get rid of the I can't do, I can't do, I can't do. Like we're both musicians and artists. So we know that the number one thing we battle with is what we can't do as we're trying to create. We're trying to create, but we're like, no, you can't. But we're trying to create, but you can't. So if someone who's a child says, oh, well, how did I get to be good? Well, see, my parents never said that to me. What? Your parents never said? No, no, no. My parents never said that to me. Like my grandmother, for instance, with me. My grandma said you could be whatever you believed in being, and that's why the things I am good at is because that was the first person, most important person who says, "Of course you can," and then someone else said no, but at least the primary person said yes. And masters, I know, like I remember my text with you. I know many masters, and the number one thing they say is I'm a student. So Zakir Hussein, the greatest tabla player in our generation, his dad whispered to him rhythms in the ear, and his mom comes up to Bob, his dad, and says, "Abaji," he says, she says to him, "What are you doing this for? Don't do this. You're supposed to wish your prayers in his ears." He goes, "I did." And think about it. He became the most masterful drummer in our modern times, free to create and learn. And yet someone else said, "What are you playing guitar for, you stupid shit? Go work on a machine. Do something productive with your life. Don't play guitar.
Yeah,
Don't What are you doing painting? Yeah, go do math."
yeah,
And yet we don't know by saying that we just destroyed the next Picasso, to who we stopped the next Lesya Ukrainka from writing, whoever it is, put the stops on them. And I didn't do that being a parent. I clearly said you can do it. You just gotta get out of your own way and don't listen to people who say you can't, and find out what's your voice. And
yeah,
that's what we have to have. So it's
yeah,
look at
yeah.
these people here. They're all here to see you. 57 live viewers.
Yeah, so it was so great conversation with you and with your friends. So great time for me.
Big time.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So here's another thing for our friends. Sabotage all the men in the room. Here's a rule book. Sabotage every single motherfucker that comes up to you to try to co-opt you in sexism against women. Here's the way I do it. Police officer comes up, says, "Hey, will you tell her?" Well, I tell her. Yeah. She's right there, dude. You can tell her yourself. She's a grown woman. You're right. Yeah. You're a grown man. Yeah. Figure it out. And I just step aside. I literally would not participate. Did you just literally ask me tell her what you're trying to say? Yeah. You're the one with the de-escalation training. You do it. And I just stand there like the most difficult guy. You will not get me to play that game with you, homie. And I call it like spoon feeding them to the piranha, so here I have that with Babusi. I love Babusi, like I have a whole chapter called Babusi Intelligence Agency or Babusi Skazati. And it's because well, one, they're just the women of this generation who made this country. But on a personal level, I have a really good rapport with the ladies here in the neighborhood, and like there'll be forums sitting at the bench in the park now that especially Vesna Uje Tut Nareshti. The spring is here finally, and so in the middle of that, someone's trying to dial or something. Hold on, who's trying to dial? Don't dial. Um, and so I go out and "Dobro dia, dobro." Oh, Vitayo, Vitayo. And I just the energy. And I have a lady who runs the front of my desk area, the concierge in our building, and I bring her a little peach turnover, a little Yupesik tort, and just
Hmm.
yeah, little to bed, and just that energy. And then like it shouldn't be hard to be really good and kind with women, and not treat women as property and goals. But maybe those are Boževili.
Yeah, you're great. You're not Bashvili at all. And
Oh,
it's
I am now after so much war. Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, maybe for the cynic people who has no like you and me are very bожевільні.
Right, right.
Because you know I met a lot of people that believe, like not a lot, but I
Yeah.
met people who believe only like in money or like realistic stuff, you know,
Yeah.
stuff that you can touch. So it's for them it's very hard to believe in something that you cannot or you cannot make your like it's my my
Yeah.
woman, my house, my like
Oh, that's a real big one right there. I strongly believe in a kind of being in love that has nothing to do with ownership or a relationship that's like we're together and all. No, it's like it's to see someone for who they are and see the cosmic nature of who they are at such a level that you're just like, ah, it's not about the kind of romantic love. It's different than that. It's bigger than that. In fact, most of romantic love is still very like, I want to be hugged and I want to be kissed and I want a partner I can show up to with and look normal. No, but like cosmic love is like way beyond that. If you see someone achieve a goal and you break into tears of happiness for them, like at a level where you can't even think, you're so happy, that's being in love. And that's not about ownership, and that's not about like I have women in my life who I've been in love with my whole life, and they were married. I never even asked them to go on a date because that wasn't my path with them. It's just that I get my best friend Jackie, for instance, I knew since I was about 14,
mm,
and she died suddenly
my
in
god,
November 2022,
I'm so sorry.
and she was in that category. We were never boyfriend girlfriend, but loved her above every person. And she married a guy named Chris, no less. Go figure. We both went through hell as kids in a way no one knew, and we both knew this with each other. Every year, our birthdays were 2 days apart.
Oh,
And someone says, "Well, you were in love with her." I said, "Of course, she was Jackie." But I never asked her to be my girlfriend. Never thought of it. Never had to. I had Jackie. Why did I have to have Jackie becomes Chris's whatever? No, that's so the funny reason why I bring it up is because the first thing I remember saying about it, and I got in a fight over her at that age too. I said, "You don't pull the fruit off the tree." That was the argument. In other words, you don't take the flower away from where the flower grows. That kind of gets in the way.
yeah,
And she was my first lesson like that because Jackie was my friend who, if people said we also were like boyfriend, girlfriend, no, no, no. So how do you call that? And it's like there's this divine love, that's bigger than that. And you can have it
yeah,
for men in your life. You can say that they're like, I have men in my life that I am in awe of who they are as people. And they're not famous. They just do something so specifically in tune with the universe that you just sit back and go, holy shit, I know him, you know, and I know that those people make a difference in this world without putting their heads up and without making a big deal out of themselves.
yeah.
And they inspire us to do something. And if you go to them like you're a hero, they go, no, 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 man, I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah. So the absolutely beauty of spirit of soul of the people, and yeah, it's I really I have probably I have such friends, some
Hmm.
friends that I really love, like not in romantic love, but in
Hmm.
this love is much deeper, much you know, it will be forever. It will be on like I forgot this word in English, but
Yeah.
I really appreciate to know these people, to be in same time,
Yeah.
to
You saw
touch.
some of the ones I know at Fender rallies. I have friends there that been through so much hell and now their husbands are home. So in the news sometimes, like my friend Olga Kurmaleva and her husband just came home, Ruslan, and she was in the news on United 24 and everywhere because she
Mm.
battled cancer while he was in captivity.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's so she's my friend,
Oh.
and Anastasia, her friend that was in also at all these rallies until August last year. Like the love I have for them is without words. I am a better person for having walked with this path with them. And
Oh.
yet it's not like, that kind of love that is shallow and stupid and offensive even at this point. And my friend Svetlana, who still waits for her fiance Leonid, there's not a time that goes by if there's time on Instagram, you'll see it on my posts. You know my Instagram. And it's like I message her after every release and message her throughout the waiting period that she's still going through. Is like, still here, girl. I know. Just we're gonna get him home. Leonid never forgot every day. And that's a love that has no words. Like I didn't grow up with a sister, so I don't know what that term means to shallow. Someone
Mhm.
says, "Oh, you're like a sister." I don't want to limit it to like
Yeah, me
you're in
too.
this box now, and then you're in this box, and you have to be in this box. How about you're who you are, and you're creating great stuff, and because our friends are here with you, let me say you have that cosmic energy when you sing. I watched them react to you, this crowd here, as they were watching you,
Mm,
as they listened to you sing from your heart.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You ready
Wow.
for some rest?
Yeah, probably time to go.
Someone's
But
arguing outside. I can hear down on the first floor.
oh,
I'm on the top of the building, 25 floors up, and I can hear
you know,
someone downstairs arguing at the floor.
it was so great conversation, and I'm so happy to know you. Uh,
Oh, Yatakosh.
I
Zayemo.
I
And you
really
know what? Look
uh
at that, everybody. Look at this. This is our wonderful friend, and we got this printed today. So when I see you next, you get to have one of the four here, or maybe you can have
wow.
all four. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your stories, for sharing your love, for sharing your honest feeling. It's so, for me it's very important because I can meet it not all time. So not everybody can be so open, so honest, so beautiful in this way. And thank you so much for your life. Thank you for being here in Ukraine because I
Oh,
believe that,
Yabdoma.
yeah, but I believe, also I believe that when we are staying here, we also defend Ukraine,
That's
especially
right.
such good person like you. You with your light, with your kindness, you defend us. You with your great heart. Thank you so
with my
much.
with my attitude problem, as I call it.
Yeah.
I've got an attitude problem in favor of Ukraine. It takes someone in America says something, and I like "Shotse, bro, no shote." Like I just get in a mood. Like, don't talk about Ukrainians that way. Yeah, hold your tongue. But you guys really make me. I'll say this: Ukrainians made me better. Really, really made me better as a human because there's a certain depth of even during the difficult stuff. There's a certain depth of sincerity that happens here. And on Saturday last week, the day before International Women's Day, you know why I knew it was going to be International Women's Day? Actually, I knew which day it was going to be because flowers were suddenly being purchased. Everyone's like, all these guys walking around. It's like, okay, I know when Valentine's Day is. That's a difficult day for me. That's my wife died on February 15th, so it's not Valentine's Day. It's International Women's Day. And in America, they don't do that. There is no, I'm not saying there isn't a man who does it, but you won't see like I saw here. And I'm not in the dark that there are some problems here, of the way women are treated. I know about it because there was also a women's protest here in Kiev of
Yeah,
saying, we're going
I
to stand for this
I
and we're
can
going to do
tell
this.
you,
Please, please,
uh,
please.
the flowers is such a mark, like, забыла своё слово. It's like influence of Soviet time.
Mm-hmm.
So why we even did this protest in Odessa, we also did this. We
Ah, good.
we
Good to know.
said we don't need flowers. We need our rights, and we need drones. We need so
Right.
give because flowers. It was also this propaganda of Soviet time that
Mm-hmm.
that we woman is very like flowers is a
Mm.
beautiful, it's a weak part of humanity that we have to defend. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and in Soviet time, plus you have to work like a horse, plus you have to be like sweet like a spring and with the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And so why for me, I don't accept the flowers in these days, because it's a exactly this influence of this world that want to say
Mm-hmm.
that you are just a flowers for our social life.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
not the same like we are. You're
Mm-hmm.
just beauty of this world. And yeah, from some side, it's very it's really kind maybe, but it it stopped to be kind when after this you will, for example, say that woman, stop say these words. You are just a second person in this family,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
just your place in the kitchen, for example. And the problem that some men, they like very very kind in these days, and said that your days, it's 8 March, another day is not
Mm-hmm.
your days. So be
Right.
happy.
Right.
So be happy in these days, and next day you will be punished from me. So it's about this. And for us, for example, who were on this rally, it was exactly not about the flowers. And really, if somebody will give me flowers in these days, I will just, maybe I will accept this, but it's not what we want. We don't want the
Mm-hmm.
flowers in general. But yeah, for maybe for your, it's some kind part of man's like man's behavior to woman. But for women here in Ukraine, for
Yeah.
modern woman, because
Sure.
when we were on the rally in Odessa, we saw a lot of woman faces that they show disgusting feeling to us, like, what are you
Hmm.
doing? Everything is alright. We have the rights, flowers. So they were like against us, because they also oppressed by men's,
Right.
because they serve men's rights, because
Right.
they think they have this rights now because of nothing. No, it's because women in the past of fought for this. Everything that we have now is because in the past somebody did the job. And that
Yeah.
is why we did this. In general, like I in general I don't like the flowers, dead flowers. So I like you said, I don't want to take these flowers from the beauty.
Yeah.
I want to defend this beauty alive. So I wanted, nobody will take it and give you like a sign of the love. But for me, sign of the love is the act. It's when you support the growing and development of the person. Something like
Yeah.
this.
And I would say that there's a funny moment. I was asked not too long ago about like my dating, and I've been here for 4 years. I that doesn't really work out very well. That meaning that there's too much busyness. So I don't like Tinder and what I think of as people in stalls and catalogs, and it's weird. So if I don't know someone organically, then it's not going to be. But what happened was during blackout 2 years ago, I'm in cafe and a woman hears I speak English, so she's asking questions. Okay, yeah, oh yeah, how many? Yeah, Christopher, yeah, of us. Yeah, okay, good to meet you. And then and seems nice enough. And then like what phone numbers you have? Yeah, okay, well here's my number. And I go back to work, and I'm working on destroyed oil facilities because of Russian positions in oil need to be blown up. And I'm very into this, and I'm looking at Ukraine destroying, and I'm like, okay. And I just sort of say, yeah, I'm a little busy, Це моя робота, я журналіст, я пишу про terrorists. And okay, and she leaves, and then about 30 minutes later, I'm at the park, and oh, well, maybe you need a massage, which I have a lot of stress, but I don't think that's where we were going with that, and we don't know each other. So that was a very, very fast comment to be making to me. And then I said, okay, so what is it that Ina needs? Oh, well, since you asked, $19,400 sandals, or 400 hryvnia, so it's about 400 something dollars. I said, Jose, you want 19,400 hryvnia sandals, yeah. Uh-huh. With diamonds, wow, wow. Okay. Well, I said the first thing I said, yeah, journalist, yeah, yeah. So that will tell you how much money happens, yeah. My, but she continued, and I said, I think you misunderstood me. So the women in my life that are most important would yell at me, "You spent what? On how much? Yeah. Do you know how many drone parts we could buy?"
Ah,
That's who I'm surrounded by. And I think one of my friends who does this, Katerina Kozetska.
Kosetska.
When she is a hero of mine for that very reason. So
Yeah.
actually, she sort of popped in my mind when that comment. It's like, well, my friends who inspire me would be like, yeah, but for that much money, we can get this and this and this and this to make drones. And it's just this dichotomy that was really funny at the moment. I was really nice to her. I just said, no, thank you. I can't buy those shoes, and that's not what I'm looking for. So good to meet you. And when there was no shoes, there was no phone calls, which was exactly the way it should be. But my friends who really get creative, like with Katerina, who take their energy and put it back into the bigger picture, that's really where we have to go in the future. And I'm glad that you told me about the events that happened in Odessa because here, I'm aware of what happens, but when I get to see it spread across the country, it's really important to testify to.
Yeah.
I see Andreas knows. Everyone knows. If you're watching Rick the Ukrainian stream, y'all know her. And we actually have to do. I need to do another follow up. They did a documentary on the captured Marine orchestra, which that's how I met her is at the rallies, and
Hmm.
and she's been a great voice for that group. And our friends here, they kind of know some of these faces because they see them in the video clips that I have. I have videos of her speaking about this. But when I come to Odessa, you have to show me things around because I was there 3 years ago in August, and I was there for a month almost, and I did a documentary on Transfiguration Cathedral being hit by missiles,
Hmm.
and kind of showed a little bit of the area. And then we had a big attack that took out Fozzie uh,
Hmm.
on August 13th, 2023. I was there, and it's such a beautiful, special place, and we have a lot of friends there, so we have to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Odessa is like great in the people who are volunteers, who are activists, who like change the reality in Odessa. And
Hmm.
I like Odessa exactly because of these people. And for
Hmm.
me, the people are most important in the city. Nothing like I don't need the beauty of the buildings without the people. Without
Yeah.
good friends.
Yeah, for instance, I'm not someone in a religious category. Like my own wiring isn't very religious. I'm kind of driven by the cosmos in a certain way, yes. But like today, I went to St. Volodymyr and was filming there. I've filmed there before inside with Filaret, a
Mm,
big event. But I was there again, and the sun was looking beautiful. And
mm,
what always gets my attention is the people who stop and express their spiritual values in front of us. And it's personal for them. They're not doing it to show me.
mm,
They're not doing it for the camera. It's personal, but it's sincere and it's kind and it means a lot. And
mm,
buildings without people is nothing. Land without people is useless. So there's
yeah,
much to do. But
yeah.
let me let you get some rest and
I have to go because I have to wake up early morning
yes,
for the really minute of silence. We did it twice per week.
yeah.
So next day will be very interesting tomorrow.
Yes.
today because it's
Today, today.
today.
And then to our friends, this will be our last interview for about a week plus while I go to the front, going east and
Oh
southeast.
wow, wow.
Yeah, FPV range, no less. So the
Take
Russians better
care.
have their optical ready because, yeah, fuck them. But we had to go talk to some people who do some really, 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 really amazing and
Yeah,
important work, and
yeah.
everyone here will eventually see some of those interviews, and I will check in while we're doing that. We just won't be doing like scheduled interviews like this. But final question and comment before we go. Will you come back and give us more briefing on what you're doing and the very valuable voices of our Crimean friends? Yes?
Um.
I
Tell
said,
me
I said you
the.
come back and be one of our voices for our Crimean community, and we'll
Uh,
we'll make sure our friends get to hear plenty.
I didn't understand. What do you mean?
I said you can come back here on Substack and do more interviews.
Of course.
Yeah, we talk
Yeah. Thank you
talk
so
and
much for this idea to be here to
hmm
share with content about Crimea and about our fighting about swords, and I have a lot of to say,
yeah,
and I'm happy to be here now with you and with your friends and with rollers, and
yeah,
it's really it's a lot for me. It's a lot for me to find the friends, really friends, because real friends are will be always with you,
yeah.
and that is why I really happy to do my music even for small group, for small like amount of the people, but I know this is people are uh, bring changes in this world, and these people are on the good side, and these people had good taste of the music, good taste of the everything, and for me it's much more important,
And then you and I will have to actually put some music together because
yeah, yeah.
you're one of the only people that got to see me actually do something I didn't do all 4 years here
um,
is to play music. But also, my drumming style is very similar, and my
yeah,
drumming knowledge is very similar to Crimean music.
it's great because I love more minimalistic music,
Hmm.
and I like space between the notes. I like silence between this, a lot of notes and melodies and drums, but it's more important for me. Um, it's like we need not a lot of notes to
Hmm.
say about important and some important things, and sometimes too much. For example, I was on the concert of jazz musician,
Yeah.
and for me it was like people that try to find a lot of notes, like and it's like stop, could you find one three notes and that's all, like three notes and the space, like
When they get up there and do math in front of everyone in their head, it's not music anymore.
yeah, and, it's like for me it's like you try to show to the world how you great and like in your skills,
Yeah,
how you make this, and for me it's like, and for me under this music is nothing, like
yeah,
just beer, just I'm drinking the beer for example, and just feel nothing for me. Of
exactly.
course maybe another person will feel a lot of senses, but for me it's like this.
Well, na dobranic
На
and
добраніч.
do zushichi skoro.
До зустрічі. Take care.
And to all of our friends, we will see you soon. And again, just pay attention. Make sure you're subscribing to
And
Aziza's account, and I'll be back here soon with you all soon. And you know how we always end our space. We always end it the same way. Slava Ukraini.
героям слава. And Крим сербест olacak. Crimea will be free.
Ah, дякую вам. И пиздец Російської Федерації.
Yes.